Welcome, everybody, to our March 7th City Commission work session. We'll call this meeting to order, and if you would just please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We don't have any presentations this morning, so we'll move right on to citizen input. Anybody wishing to speak on any item that is not already on the agenda, please feel free to come forward and do so. Please give us your name and address for the record. And
Well, my name is Sally Stanfield. I live in St. Andrews Links, which happens to adjoin St. Andrews, adjoin Sterling Park. So I appreciate and thank you this morning, Mayor, City Commissioners, and other city officials. We do understand that the proper uses of Sterling Park pose very difficult, and as Commissioner Gow has expressed to me, very personal decisions. It defies easy solution. We also respect the need and want to participate in thoughtful discussion. We respect the compliance needed with the city's master plan, and we respect the need to find compromise and alternatives. As we have several new members on the commission at this point, I would like to take a brief look backwards to the closure of Sterling Links Golf Course on January 14th, 2020, the day of that decision. At that point, Parks Director Gizzi had mentioned various options for the park. He envisioned making improvements to the existing driving range, creating walking paths, and placing benches in the park, possibly even connecting the park to the Pinellas Trail. Quoting him, "It is a beautiful piece of land and would work nicely as a passive park." And I would add to that by saying not all recreation needs to be active. Jorge Quintas and Stormwater Coordinator Whitney Marsh talked about adding a stormwater feature similar to Cascade Park in Tallahassee, which would incorporate stormwater education to create a showcase park for a beautiful Dunedin. Vice Mayor Heather Gray enthusiastically asked, "How many epic goals can we touch with this proposal?" She also wanted to make sure that the public knew they were welcome to come out and to speak. Commissioner Freeney, followed by Mayor Boljowski, then stressed the importance of openness and transparency in the process. At this meeting, a stated objective expressed that future plans for the park were to be determined with community input. All indications were that the city would respect the character of Sterling Park and make recommendations that would be consistent with the comprehensive master plan and Epping goals. However, this has not been the reality. We're now faced with proposals for a dog park, pickleball courts. Both would be contrary to the historic nature of Sterling and also contravene many portions of the master plan. How did we get here? Well, we are here. We at St. Andrews, among many, want to partner with you, community partner with you, to find alternatives that work, to do that hard balancing that you're faced with. Hurricane Ian reminded us of the importance of stormwater management, and without that, we will not have our beautiful green space of Dunedin, which clearly you want to preserve with the epic goals and your master plan.
thank you.
Thank you. May I leave you?
Sure, just give it to our clerk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to come forward and speak to any item not already on the agenda? Okay, thank you very much. Jennifer, do we have an update on the next time we'll be discussing all of this and recommendations and all that? I mean, I figured it might be a few months, but I'm just curious.
It will be a few months. We want to discuss it in April, but we're already scheduling out your workshop. So, working with the residents and not moving forward quickly so that we have an opportunity to work with them. It's going to probably be late April or May. Right?
Okay, so early summer, something like that. Okay, so nothing's happening and nobody's missing anything and nothing's going to happen to the park without full public discussion.
Absolutely. Right.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
dare I say that if there's a way to untangle pickleball courts somehow, so that, I mean, 'cause I mean, I know I continue to get a lot of commentary on pickleball courts, so, you know, and just our options for
Right.
that.
And that's
all
really
our
what
options.
What we're
so.
talking about, what we're working on.
Cool.
Because the city commission had last time said, look at the other options that we had looked at already, but
Yeah.
haven't go around again, so.
Well, same with the dog park, so. All right. Okay, thank you. All right, we have consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes for strategic planning and our work session, board and committee appointments to the Disability Advisory Committee, Edgewater Drive Committee, Firefighters Pension, Social Services Committee, and the extension to the FCT grant for the Gladys Douglas Preserve. Are there any items to be pulled?
Yes, I'd like to pull a strategic plan for just one word in it.
Okay, we'll pull that. All right. Can I have a motion to approve everything but that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Gao and Commissioner Franny. Is there any public input on these consent? Seeing or hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then we have the minutes from the strategic planning. John?
Thank you, Mayor. On about the third to the last page, there's a comment that says about who controls the meetings and who controls the agenda, and it says the secretary does that. It says that I said the secretary does that. I've been the chair of a board before, and the chairperson does that. So if you could just change that from, if everybody's agree, if you just change that from secretary to chairperson. It's not a big deal, but I just wanted to make sure it was corrected. That's it.
I don't
That's
even
it.
remember us having that conversation, so good for you, John.
And since you brought it up, I wasn't gonna, but I realized, I remembered they had spelled my name M-O instead of M-O-E. So
I will make this correct.
repeatedly, or else I wouldn't, you know, I mean, it was like repeatedly.
She wants more.
I like that E on there, you know, come on.
More.
I always put E. My girlfriend's has the same name as you,
Yeah.
Maureen, and we call her Mo, and it's always M-O-E, always. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the strategic planning workshop minutes with the recommended changes?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Vice Mayor Torga and Commissioner Franny. Any public comment on those meeting minutes? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty. All right, we'll move to action items. Resolution 2305, Florida settlement with Walmart from opioid-related litigation. Jennifer Cowan.
Yes, this is brought before you previously. The city participated in earlier settlements regarding the opioid litigation. Since that time, the state has settled with Walmart, and in order for the city to participate in that settlement, it needs to complete the subdivision settlement participation form, and this authorizes the city manager to complete that form and submit it.
Okay, so it's not over. There's another step, is what you're saying.
Right, and this resolution basically authorizes her to execute that form, which is attached to the resolution, submit it to the state, and then you get the settlement from the Walmart proceed.
Okay. Nicole, did you have anything to add?
No, actually, I asked her to come up an item early, so that's my fault.
You what?
I asked her to come up an item early, so she's
early,
for
so,
legislative
yeah.
priorities.
She looks like
Okay.
she's ready to.
Oh, yeah,
up, though.
legislative.
She came up, yeah.
All right, well, I didn't know.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and how much
She's
is
saying,
that?
thanks, city manager.
It's going to be about $27,000.
Okay, and it's a settlement that we didn't sue. This was something that's,
Correct.
in case anybody's watching.
Yes, no, you didn't sue. This was actually something where it came out of the other litigation that was going on, and I don't believe Walmart was even participating in that suit, but they came forward to the state and said, before there's any litigation, we want
We'll
to settle.
offer X, Y, and Z? Okay, and that goes for any expenses that we've entailed for,
Yes, it'll have the same restrictions, so with regard to expenses you had in fighting the opioid crisis.
okay, and then when we do receive that money, that doesn't come back to us at all? that just goes to you.
Yeah, it's general fund, and the general fund finances the fire EMS and also our contract for the sheriff, so.
Right, and those are the expenses we've experienced for that. Okay,
Yes.
all right. Any other questions? All right. Oh, this is a resolution. Can you please read that resolution by title only?
Oh, certainly. Resolution 2305, a resolution of the City of Dunedin, Florida, authorizing the city to join the state of Florida and other local government units as a participant in Florida's settlement with Walmart from the opioid-related litigation and providing for an effective date.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Franny and Commissioner Walker, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody wishing to come forward and speak to this item, please feel free to do so. Seeing or hearing none, we'll come back to the commission. Any final comments?
No?
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gao,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Torga,
Aye.
Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
Commissioner Franny,
Aye.
and Mayor Bujalski.
Aye, and that motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And then we'll move on to our legislative priorities update. Nicole, I know you're going to go over everything we have here. In my monthly meeting with Jennifer Cowan yesterday, she was going to bring some things up from the Monday call and some things that have been concerning her. She was going to do that under city attorney update, but I'm going to look at you and say this is probably the more appropriate time to do it. Certainly. So I'm going to go ahead and let you do your thing, Nicole, but then I'm going to turn to Jennifer to fill us in case there's anything we want to change based on what she's saying. And I don't know that there is. This should be pretty quick. We've gone over this 100 times, so. You go, you're on.
Please, right?
Good morning, Nicole Delfino, Assistant to the City Manager. Just here to review the priority statements for your legislative priorities. These were discussed previously. We made some changes and kind of focused the statements towards some really high priority items. Not to say that the stuff that is not included here is obviously not important, but just to really get focused on some key items here. Do you want to go by each section, or do you, is that your preference?
Well, did everybody read through this? I mean, you were part of creating it. Do we need to talk about it all over again, or do we want to go right to Jennifer Cowan?
No, I mean, I'm more worried about what they're
What they're
doing up
doing
there
now?
than.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know you're on the calls as well.
Yes.
I just happened to be speaking with her yesterday, so we got in a big dialogue about it. I tend not to get on the calls early in the session because it aggravates me and upsets me so badly that I kind of wait for the fallout and this stuff that's really going to go, that's really going to committee and really moving its way through. Then I can get, grab onto it. But
They only have 1,600 bills.
Yes. So over 16, and that was a comment I was going to make from the call yesterday. The Florida League of Cities holds Monday morning calls to kind of highlight their bills that are coming before committee, so that communities can take a stance, make calls, send letters, and so on. It's a dial-in call, so anybody can join. Yesterday's session or call did verify 1,600 bills. And then I'm sure all of you, but for the record, the Florida League of Cities webpage, under the advocacy tab, you can then go to bill summaries, which gives a summary, the issues that may face municipalities and their position as far as opposing or supporting, and then or others that they're just monitoring. Could be good news and bad news. It appears as if they're a little behind the ball as far as getting items moving through committee. So either it can go where they're just approve everything very quickly, or they'll just end up dying in committee, which obviously in many of these cases we hope will be the case. There is a deadline for filing bills is actually today, and then they're going to start a regular session convene today as well. So. I have some bills that were discussed in yesterday's call that we're, monitoring. I'm sure those are probably the same items that Ms. Cowan will speak to, so I'll let you.
Mayor, before we go to our attorney, I just want to inform you and for you to acknowledge that Nicole is watching these bills. She's following them.
Oh, yeah.
When it hits your legislative priorities, we will send a letter of opposition or support, whatever it is. But it will either be under the mayor's name or I will sign it and we'll copy all of you. But just so you know that that is happening.
Yeah,
kind of
we're not waiting
organically.
till we get to the dais and
We
have
can't,
to approve that.
right, no.
It's just not time.
It moves through too fast, right?
So you'll, yes.
Andrew's got my stamp.
And you'll actually be seeing a few of those coming through
Yeah, especially
in
about the
regards
solid
to
waste.
permitting and solid waste, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And we are set up to where if we're opposing something, but it does move through that committee, are we in a position when it gets to that next committee to send another letter? Or,
Yeah, we track it as it moves through committees, and, obviously as the composition of the committee changes, we'll address it, for that next committee chair, if we need to. And I know we talked briefly this morning, but, I will send, or we will send letters on behalf, but really, making those phone calls, is really important with not just our own, our own representatives, but for those committee chairs, if you have any relationships with them.
Or even if you don't.
Or even if you don't.
Right.
They might
Well,
pick up
you
your.
will then.
Yeah, you might pick up your call if they know you, but yes.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, just even on the morning news, they were talking about what the session is going to look like. And I'll be really cautious and careful with what I say, but, the attacks on things that maybe don't even interest us as a government per se. I mean, it's going to be a bad session.
If these things move through, yes.
It's going to be crazy. So, Ms. Cowell?
Okay, well, kind of to that point too, I don't know if you all saw, but in the Tampa Bay Times, they had an article of why cities and towns are worried about this session. And it actually goes through several of the different bills that Nicole has alluded to and that I'll talk a little bit about today. And the article really focuses on some of the local representatives that are initiating some of these bills dealing with cities and towns. And so you may actually know the individuals and have a relationship with the individuals that are proposing these bills. One of the first bills that was talked about, and again, much of this is discussed on Florida League of Cities, there's the sovereign immunity. So right now, the sovereign immunity caps are 200, 300, and there's a House bill and a Senate bill. The Senate bill, and they're not identical at this point. And, they'll
Which is
need to,
good.
right, and they'll need to be identical in order to pass. They're moving through committee. The Senate bill is seeking to increase it to 400, 600, which is very similar to, I think, what we saw at some point in last legislative session. But the House bill is looking to increase it to 2.5 million and 5 million. 2.5 million per person and 5 million per incident. So that would be a significant change to the sovereign immunity caps and, have a potential drastic effect on city budgets. And both of those bills are moving through committee. The next bill to kind of bring to your attention is, and you already are aware of it, I think, by Nicole's statement, was the residential permits. And this, again, there is already a shot clock and an expedited process in going through building permits. This reduces that significantly. So we're talking about like 3 days to determine whether or not it's complete, 9 days in which to issue, those kind of time frames. Instead of getting potentially 3 times to seek additional information, it would drop it to 2. And then there would be an opportunity for an in-person meeting. And previously, if it wasn't issued in a particular time, I think the fees were reduced. That language has been taken out and replaced as well.
Can you tell us what the motivation on this one is? Other than just, tell us exactly how to do our job, but then you have to pay to do it?
My suspicion, and that's all I can
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
is that there has been discussion either from residents and their frustrations or contractors and their frustrations that building departments are not moving fast enough, and that local governments are asking for too much information.
But a lot of that has happened in the last couple of years because of COVID, and then loss of employees, because of that. And I mean, none of us can keep our departments staffed.
Right.
And of course, development's kind of come to us screeching halt in our city.
Is it basically automatically approved if you don't get it done within the time, or is it just a fine issue?
It sounds like it's approved.
Oh
Which-
my
Which I
God.
would guess that most residents would be
But yeah.
extremely opposed to if they understood what that could actually
Right.
mean to things next to them.
I mean, given the fact that, we've had a building fall down in the state of Florida,
Yeah.
like collapse.
And, to Ms.
I mean, permitting is about public safety.
Yes.
Yeah, I would also assume that there has been some few vocal individuals that have prompted the development of this.
Who's behind this bill?
One of our representatives, DeSigley
Disagree.
and Esposito. So
We
those
definitely-
calls are really important.
Are you guys talking about that one at Florida League? What are they saying?
Well, no, they.
Suncoast.
Together we've not been,
Suncoast,
Suncoast has not been talking about that, but DeSigley, what he wants to do is he wants to make sure that we fix this problem. And this is his method of doing it, but it's, the automatic, if it's not approved, it becomes automatically approved. It's a
Right,
big
so-
stumbling block.
So, and the statement or how the bill is written in the commentary from both Florida League and Thousand Friends of Florida is it's a 3 calendar day, not 3 business day. So
Jesus.
you
Right,
know,
that's
you
right.
So we're
know,
supposed to work on the weekends
so
too?
you know that people will submit on a Friday, and God forbid that we're not here on a Monday for some holiday purposes.
Which happens,
Yes.
especially in government.
So it's, there's a lot wrong, and I know that, the FLC is advocating as much as they can to make changes to this, but anything that we can do.
Is there a House sponsor to this? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you've got to.
Well, it's really an unfunded mandate because we would need to have our inspectors come in on weekends.
More employees that we can't even fill the spots that we currently.
If we don't want permits to be approved that haven't been reviewed, we'd have to have employees come in on weekends and pay them. So it's an unfunded mandate.
Which means your taxes go up. Not ours, the residents. Because, you can't just add employees and not have the revenue.
Well, we're the
to-
residents too, so all of
No,
ours-
I know.
right, yeah. All of ours.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
My commentary is probably
I
not
was
helpful.
like,
It's
you're-
just so aggravating.
You're right, you don't want to read it, but it is,
That's
there-
why I don't get on the darn call, because I know I'm gonna scream.
And the calls are flying over there, so.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, hopefully they get a little more rational.
Okay, and the other one?
There's another one that is the solid waste bill,
Yeah, that's
which you may have already heard about, which the key language in there is a municipality may not prohibit a private entity from, providing recycling as solid waste services to commercial, industrial, multifamily, residential, including condos.
Well, we don't currently prohibit, because we look at like condo or townhome groups as commercial, and so they contract their own. We're not allowed to currently prohibit,
Well, I think.
but it's saying general residential, right?
No, but it has to, I haven't seen the general residential. What I saw was the services to those individuals, but it's that you can't prohibit, meaning that oftentimes what'll happen is there may be a commercial provider, but there's a franchise with that commercial provider. You
Oh,
couldn't
so like
select
Waste
one
Pro.
and prohibit somebody else, as it's currently written. You couldn't prohibit somebody from operating it that way, from providing that service. Do you think of the tools that are often used in regulating that, and by having that language that states that you can't prohibit, it would greatly, or could greatly restrict your normal tools in regulating whomever would provide those services.
So you could have 10 providers going down your street for the same 10-house dead-end street.
I have it.
And so the big issue for the municipalities is the rolling assets that they have currently. And so they've planned for a certain level of service, and now that can be interrupted, quite
Yeah.
quickly. And those trucks are not inexpensive, nor is the whole operation inexpensive. So
Well-
costs can go out of control if they do that.
It impacts the whole cost scenario.
Well-
That's how you get your, best cost.
And if you have multiple different ones, you could have them coming on potentially different days. So from a residential standpoint of how many
Yeah.
garbage trucks are going by your home on what days,
See, and they can switch. They can switch if they don't get it here. They can go over to another city and get it. We don't. We only service our city here. So that's
So
a stumbling block.
I did share this bill with Sue Bartlett, our Public Works Director, and also Bill Pickram. He provided some feedback, which I'll use to craft a letter. But with this bill, his comments are that with the exclusive franchise agreements for commercial waste, his thoughts is that it may reduce, end user collection costs initially, but then that's going to change. It's like getting a good deal out of the box,
Like
and
when
then
you change cable providers.
Exactly.
You get a good deal, and then a year later, it's
and
It's
then
kind of like when you go private, like cities that have gone private on solid waste.
Yeah.
And then they get a huge savings, and then they don't. But they've sold out all their assets, and it's hard to go back, so.
right, and then and for the city itself to stop in-house commercial trash collections, the city would see a decrease in program revenue, eventually impacting its residents, which may impact rates as well. So we'll use their feedback to put into that letter, but again, calls from anybody listening.
Well, what we don't want to see either is our residents getting to a point, because, I mean, once you go down that road, it can become this, where they have to call and figure out which provider they want to use. Because here's the deal, I mean, when you move into a community, right, you know who your electric provider is, right? You know who provides trash, you know who provides your water. It's that simple. And can you imagine if you had to figure out who's going to provide your trash? I mean, the cost of that. And when we changed our trash system, we went to a 111 trash system. And we did that for sustainability. Not sustainability of the system, sustainability of the earth. Because you're encouraging, I don't want to use the word force, but you are, in our new system, for people to recycle more. And we're not doing what Clearwater did. You've got a bin for regular garbage, you've got a bin for recycling, and you can do yard waste once a week, 111. That is the most environmentally friendly, sustainable trash system out there today. And it puts less wear and tear on everything. Now, with that, what's going to happen if you have all these other garbage providers? Well, that whole transformation just went right out the door. And everything we're trying to work towards to be environmentally sensitive is gone.
So what's driving it? I mean, again, I have to think that we have a great reputation in solid waste, so don't bother us. It seems like it's the one size fits all, that maybe somewhere else in the state, there's a monopoly feeling and not great service, and so they want to do a one size fits all, but it really does.
Like the trees.
Yeah, like the
Yeah,
tree.
I don't know.
Do you know
I
what's
don't
the
know
driver?
what the
Because sometimes it
background.
really does help to know the driver.
Yeah, I don't know what the reason for this is.
Where's the bill coming out of?
It's a House Bill 975 Holcomb and Senate Bill 798 in
Where are they from?
Golia.
I think Holcomb's from Hernando. And
Or
then
maybe a business, a business reason.
that's true, too.
It's, trust me, I've been reading these and scratching my head quite a bit
That's
from
why I don't
where they
remember
came
what
from.
Yeah, because was it last year? I mean, I might be dreaming this in my head. I mean, so excuse me if I am. But I thought there was this bill that if a city took over sanitation from a private, that there had to actually was going to be a 2 or 3 year payout of their losses by that. And I'm thinking, I mean, it was kind of insane to me. It was like, why would we do that if we're competitive? But anyway, I don't know. Somewhere there's some drivers going on in there.
Private garbage haulers, solid waste haulers, let's face it, I mean, they're,
So that's,
I'm not
those are.
going to say it in public.
Yeah, you should.
Everybody can figure it out.
And Commissioner Franny, your comment, which I happen to include on this page, is one size does not fit all communities.
Yeah, because I think that was the CRA thing too. It was, the driver had nothing to do with us. We're the best.
CRAs.
I know,
And we
and-
have like the best
we
one
have
in
the
the
most-
state.
It gets frustrating, but anyway, you just have to keep talking to them. That's all we can do.
Okay.
So we are, yes, we're tracking, we're monitoring. I mentioned to department directors last week because they get emails from their organizations to kind of, help track and how their, perspectives are on what would affect them and to help provide some of that, detailed language of what those impacts would be. So we're working all the fronts.
Mayor, can I make a quick comment? Just because I don't want to alarm anybody out there that isn't aware of this, that we do have the League of Cities, and the League of Cities is all over this, big time. And then, of course, we have all the League of Cities that are called something, Suncoast League of Cities or whatever.
Right.
We have that here, and then there's others like that, and they're jumping all over all of these things at this point. And that really comes to conversations then with our leaders, with our senators, and with our representatives. So a lot of these are somewhat surprises and are not yet worked out and are way low on the committees so far. I mean, the last day for the bill is what?
Today.
Yeah, today. So then we'll really see what we have, and then we'll probably get a lot of this stuff will get worked out. But yeah, it's good to alert. We need to be alert to this, so.
Right.
Thank you. Just wanted to make that comment.
Was there anything else, Jennifer?
Yes, and just to answer your question, that was, you asked where they were from. The representatives from Hernando and the senator was from Spring Hill. So that's where that's originating out of.
Interesting. And they're very spread out. They're very rural areas, so
don't
it
one
almost
size
makes
fits all.
sense there, right? It makes some sense there. But it's certainly not in Pinellas County, the most densely populated county in the state with 24 cities and probably, I don't know, at least 15 garbage service, municipal garbage services. I mean, you're right, Well, one size does not.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to keep talking to them about, helping them understand.
And then I had 3 other quick ones. And this is really just scratching the surface. This isn't even all of the ones that they went over.
Anything you think is important.
One also had to do with the communication services tax. And so limiting, often cities receive that services tax. They're talking about limiting that increase, and also that it would, the current bill proposes that it would serve to replace the revenue for other taxes and charges and fees, such as franchise fees, permit fees, application fees, for these type of facilities. And so
what are they trying to do?
So it appears by the language that if you're going to have that tax, and that tax isn't going, they're going to limit the increase so that it doesn't increase again until 2026, I believe it was. And then that revenue, or that tax, if you receive it, would replace other revenues that you may receive related to those providers, those communication service providers. So if you receive application fees or permit fees or franchise fees. And so we'll see how this kind of, how this progresses and whether or not it actually makes it through committee and what the final bill will be. I only bring it up because one of the impacts that they talked about, and I thought this was interesting, is that many governmental entities have pledged this tax in their bond revenues as a way of paying back the loan. And so, will that affect any of those public borrowings? And so that's something that the Florida League of Cities is looking at right now to see how these changes could impact other local governments on that level, and certainly something we'll want to pay attention to. Next is the homestead, that they're proposing new limits on homestead, which would actually, right now homestead, it says when it's reassessed, it's not to exceed 3%, and that's changed now to 2%. So it would be less in collections, you would receive less. Yeah, in homestead collections. And then the last one is a very broad preemption that was put forth it's for land and water management. And this is that the city may not adopt laws, rules, regulations, or policies related to water quality, water quantity, pollution control, pollution discharge or removal, or wetlands.
What?
And that would be, not only is it a broad preemption, but with it, it carries a penalty that if you violate that, withhold state monies that you would receive.
What's the motivation behind that?
That one I don't know. It's from Senator Burgess and Representative Maggard.
And they're from what area?
I'm not.
North, mid, south?
I'm not familiar.
I mean, that's, there's got to be some weird motivation for that. That's like the tree ordinance. The one guy got angry because he wanted to clear cut his farm, and it was his farm, and so they did this thing where you couldn't tell anybody they couldn't cut down a tree anywhere.
Zephyr Hills for.
Yeah, Tampa,
Burgess.
Zephyr Hills
Yeah.
is where this is coming from.
I mean,
Wow. It's us.
our entire comprehensive plan is about land and water quality. I mean, we're known for that. We're talking about stormwater. We've spent millions on water quality and stormwater drainage and
Maggard is parts of
I'm
Pasco.
kicking the desk over there. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, no, I'm limited. I just can't speak from the dais.
Yeah, part of Pasco.
I'm too angry.
No, I know.
Is this where, like, you can't even ban the fertilizer issue? There was some discussion going on in one of the shows. I just, of course, because obviously Pinellas has had a long time ban on fertilizer during part of the year.
Yeah.
And
It's
one
been 12
of them
years.
related, and maybe this is the one that relates to that, I don't know.
Potentially,
Yeah.
because you're
I guess we
talking
learn-
about,
we'll learn more as it,
is the regulation related to pollution discharge prevention or removal, and if that, so potentially.
Well,
Be
yeah,
impacted.
fertilizer's pollution. Considered pollution.
So
Okay.
that's all the good news I have today.
Don't you just love Tallahassee?
I will say there are a few good ones out there.
tell us the good ones.
I don't have the list of the good ones.
Yeah, we only focus
Come
on
on
the
now.
crap.
But
We gotta be fair.
they're surrounding housing and, mobility and transportation. So there are a few good ones. Now, whether they make it anywhere, that's another.
Very early, and like
Yeah.
Peter said,
Early, yeah.
very early.
Very
That's why we're kind of just sitting here listening, so,
I know.
very early.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, everybody. So I guess we probably do need to, well, we don't have to, there's nothing to vote on here, right? Or are you asking for an approval? We already approved.
We have an action item here,
Yeah.
so it would help to support the legislative priority.
Okay, can I have a motion to support our legislative priorities?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Gao and Commissioner Franny. All right, so there's nothing here, given what you're hearing, that you think needs to change, right?
No.
No, okay. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And I didn't ask for public input, I'm sorry. Anybody wish to speak to these items? Okay. Sorry about that.
I usually go last and nobody's here, so this is very exciting.
Thank you for your hard work, Nicole, we appreciate that, and Jennifer, thank you for bringing some additional explanation forward. Then we have the proposed agenda for March 21st.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am?
we want to pull item 3C and 3E, please, off the agenda.
On the agenda for the 21st?
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on. So the wastewater lift station replacement, E and what did you say?
It was 3C and 3E.
Okay, and the SCADA
Correct.
items. Okay.
We have just a little additional work to do with those items. They're not quite ready.
That's probably fine, because it's a pretty packed meeting.
Right.
So I can't call it up very quick, but does that leave us with a very robust agenda, or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have got the golf club
courses,
restoration master plan.
So,
And we have I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 other action items, so yeah, we're pretty good.
It actually helps us quite a bit.
Yeah, very helpful.
Thanks, Jorge.
Okay. All right, with those 2 changes, wait a minute, do we want to?
Motion?
Well, no, well, I guess we can make a second motion later. Because I think there's going to be, you're going to ask for something to be added to our agenda, right? Mo?
Oh, on the Blue Jays?
Yeah. Because
yeah.
we have to go through a formal vote process,
Right, we would.
but we haven't had the dialogue yet. So we
Okay.
can still make that change later. We can approve this agenda now, and then if we make a change later, we can adjust it with another vote.
Yeah, you could
Yes,
do another
okay.
motion, yeah. Or you
Okay.
could talk about the item
Yeah.
now, whichever.
Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor and Commissioner Franny, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. All right, what do you guys want to do? If you want to just go jump into the pool, or you want to take a little 5-minute break before we do that?
Literally jump in the pool, that was good.
It was a pun intended. Come on.
That's
Well
good.
played.
Do you
Yeah,
want
well
to,
played is right, very
do you want to
good.
take a little 5-minute before we jump into this, because it's going to be a while, or do you want to just move on? It's up to you.
Yeah, let's take a short.
Let's take a little 5-minute before we jump into the
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah, really.
Issue.
Let me go get my nose plugged.
Issue.
and now I'm ready.
I need a cup of coffee anyway.
We have an
I'm not going to be able to see our people in the new building. There's no place for me to see them. So we're going to have to figure that one out.
There's a staff table. Yeah.
No, I mean,
Oh, over there.
yeah,
Right.
those guys.
We'll get you a bell.
See?
Ding.
There's there's the light that goes on, right? We're on, or?
Oh, yeah, on air.
On air,
Yes,
yeah.
I did see that. We
Yeah.
saw that when we went over.
That's right.
Yeah, I was like, look at that, yeah,
see
so
that
I'll have to
for us.
wait for that. Okay. All
Okay.
right, now we're into the Olympic-sized conversation.
Uh-huh.
Highlands Park Aquatic Complex Master Plan. I am gonna do no openings because Jennifer's gonna take it off for us.
I am. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and
She's
Commissioners.
gonna jump right in.
Right into the pool. In the deep end.
Yes.
Yes.
Better than the shallow end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Better the shallow end. These puns are going to happen throughout this entire presentation.
So bad. It's gonna be so
We are,
bad.
well,
We're all nice and relaxed this morning, right? I wanted to frame the conversation this morning, if I may, in the presentation for all of you. As far as,
Are you going to frame it with both?
yeah, with
Just
the
add
lane
one more-
markers.
One more last terrible pun.
Thank you.
before we- yeah, sorry.
As far as the place that the pool has in the large-scale capital improvement projects that we have. And I've been thinking a lot about the process that we're using for these larger-scale capital improvement items, and they really are, the entire conversation is made possible by the American Rescue Plan Act funding, which pays for a portion of these capital projects. We have somewhat plucked out the larger projects from the usual budget meetings that we have. Typically, we go over all of this together every year, but for the fact that we need a little bit more time and a little bit more energy on these projects to figure out how they fit in together, and I'll mention what those projects are, if I may. First of all, on February 21st, all of you saw the parking garage for downtown. You saw conceptual plans, you saw some pricing for that garage itself. At that meeting on February 21st, there was no consensus direction from the City Commission. There was no, you got information, you asked questions, and we moved on to the next meeting, which is today, which is March 7th, and now we're talking about the pool, the next larger scale capital projects. Then on March 21st, you're going to see the golf course master plan as well, and we'll have our consultants back here to go through a hole-by-hole description of the master plan, and we're also going to see some pricing then, too,
A hole by hole.
a hole-by-hole.
Oh, my God.
Briefly.
So briefly, a quick hole-by-hole.
Yeah, this is like your thing, right?
The-
Miss Golf.
Yeah, well, you know.
On par.
I spent
Yeah,
a lot
go
of,
ahead.
I spent a lot of time in the trees, but anyway. So, and then on April 4th then, and one of the things that we need to consider, and we'll consider it on April 4th, is the undergrounding for Skinner of the utility. We were looking for an estimate from, a binding estimate from Duke. I don't think we have it in-house yet, but we've got to have it for that particular meeting. So then on April 4th, we're going to bring you the finance plan, and that finance plan is going to look at all of those larger scale capital projects and where they fit into the budget moving forward. We'll make recommendations. We'll make solid recommendations to the City Commission at that time that will sustain, if you will, our reserve for all funds, and look at the issuance of debt and all the factors involved in the issuance of debt moving forward. So Les is putting that together right now. Again, though, today you're going to look at the pool, you're going to look at phasing for the pool, and then you're going to discuss it amongst yourselves. You may have additional questions, and then we'll bring all of it back, as I said, on April 4th. On April 4th, you might, the commission as a body may not be able to make that decision even then. You might have additional questions, or we can bring it back again to you as part of the whole budget process, because these are very larger scale, impactful capital improvement projects that we need to answer all of your questions, all of your constituents' questions before we actually fold it into the budget process itself. So today, then our expectation is that you will review the presentation of our consultant and staff's portion of that presentation as well. You will ask questions, talk amongst yourselves, and then we will simply move on to the next part of the capital project plan. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Welcome, everybody.
Good
Vince?
morning. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners. Thank you for that introduction, Jennifer. Vince Gizzi, Parks and Recreation Director, and we are really, really excited to be bringing this to you today. We've worked long and hard on our master plan. I know that we originally started looking at our master plan back in 2009 when Peg Cummings was the division director for recreation, and then we had a recession.
And we know that Peg is watching, so hi, Peg.
So I know.
Totally watching. You can
Totally watching.
So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our consultant who you've met once before, George Borelli with Borelli and Partners. He's a principal architect, consultant, and owner. And George also stayed in Dunedin last night, drove in from Orlando, didn't want to be late driving on I-4 this
Yeah,
morning.
I wouldn't either.
Walked our Main Street, walked the marina, and got to learn a little more about Dunedin. Jocelyn Broadhead is also going to be presenting this morning, our recreation superintendent. Sitting next to me is Alicia Castricone, our aquatic coordinator. Will be helping with any questions, and just kudos to Alicia for the job that she's done at the pool, maintaining a 45-year-old pool for all the times and years that she has, and the pool's still functioning. On a last string, I don't want to get too excited, but each year something new happens that we have to deal with, so we keep plenty of money in repair and maintenance. Also, Lainey Sheets is here this morning, our administration superintendent, also part of our planning team for the aquatic facilities, and Natalie Gass, who just joined us, sat in the last meeting with us, our sustainability coordinator, who will be offering some sustainable opportunities and features for us. So the way I thought this would go this morning is George was going to go ahead and go through the PowerPoint master plan, and then if you'd like, we could stop at that point and get comments and answer questions. Then Jocelyn's going to take over to talk about 4 phasing site plans, along with the budget options for each of those site plans. Again, we'll have our question and comments after that. But before we get started with the PowerPoint, I just want to mention that the amenities and design incorporated in the master plan were identified based on the results of 2 community surveys conducted, one in 2019 and the other in November of 2021. The 4 most requested amenities were a lazy river, a pool with 0 depth or beach entry, slides and lap swimming. The 4 most desired support features included shaded lounge areas, concessions, lights for night usage, and party shelters. Staff and consultant also took the philosophy that the aquatic complex should be a multi-generational gathering place, a complete community pool. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to George to begin and go through the PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Vince. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be back here. It's been a while. COVID and 2 hurricanes, I think.
Yeah.
But it's glad to be back. We are the prime consultant that the city hired to work with staff to develop this master plan. And one of our primary consultants was, as you see on the screen, was Martin Aquatic, who's a preeminent aquatic engineering and design firm that we've partnered with on a number of aquatic projects and competitive pools. And they really bring intimate knowledge not only to the planning and design process, but the systems that operate these facilities. Next slide. So jumping into the site plan, here's your project site plan. We've identified the existing Highlander Aquatic Complex in the yellow dashed line there, including the Kiwanis Spray Ground. This has been a driving factor for the master planning because currently it's a challenge to maintain and manage that facility. There are no sight lines from the main aquatic facility, so we wanted to bring that into the overall fold. We also wanted to maintain the large and beautiful oak canopy that occurs on the site as well. We were not really able to move the facility more north due to 2 main factors. One is some flooding that happens east of the fire station in Highlander Park, and really the second one was we didn't want to block access to event parking into the field. So using the open areas that exist towards the south, you'll see in the next slide that we've located the master plan and the various pools. So here's the a rendering image of the master plan, and I'll kind of walk you through each of these elements, starting with the Kiwanis Spray Ground, which is labeled A, item A on that site plan. And as you can see with this master plan, we've pulled the existing spray grounds into the aquatic complex and located the main building, which is labeled number 1, in a manner that provides views not only to that splash pad, which would then be behind the entire fence, the complex fence, but also view of the rest of the pool. So you would enter the facility, and very much like you would enter your life of swimming from a non-swimmer to an excellent swimmer. The features that you see are designed so that they lay out in that kind of pattern and process of someone that doesn't know how to swim may use the splash pad, and then as they transition into the facility, use the zero entry activity pool, which provides areas for non-swimmers to play with water activities and interactive toys. And then there's a little bit of a deeper area for those that might start to learn to swim. And as that big pool moves more to the east, it starts to engage more of a active swimmer, an older group with water basketball, volleyball, and potentially a obstacle course. And then it continues, moves to the east, and you have a real exciting portion of the pool, which are two slides about 20 to 30 feet high that twist and turn and end in a 5-foot plunge pool. And that is probably the most exciting portion of that activity pool. Moving more toward the north, then as person's swim abilities get stronger and kids can learn to swim, is your competitive pool, your 25, and that's listed as item D. It's your 25-meter by 25-yard competitive pool. This will have 8 lanes, starting blocks, 2 diving boards. So this pool will accommodate a number of competitive activities, as well as learn to swim, master's programs, clubs, high school type programs. Really a versatile pool as well. I'm going to stick with the pools. Moving a little bit further north on the plan, you'll see listed as item E is your therapy pool. This is a pool that'll be about there's 5 feet of water in this pool. It's at a constant depth, and it can be heated from 89 to 94 degrees for truly therapeutic activities. The pool can be used for, again, a plethora of programmatic activities, including adaptive uses for MS and autism and other nerve and nerve-type afflictions that the hot water would really be beneficial for. And again, these pools are more for people that can swim, probably an older crowd as well. And then moving further north is item F is the lazy river, everyone's favorite. This pool offers opportunities for casual cruising on a tube or actually programmed exercise. We've straightened the curves out a lot so that it provides a better view for the lifeguards, and we've located it to the north knowing that this may be a future element and could be built while the rest of the pool remains occupied and accessible and operational. So let me come back to the buildings on this site plan. As I mentioned, item 1 is your main building, and it's located to the south for a number of reasons. One, it provides views to the pool deck and provides views to the pools that need the most visibility, which are the splash pad and the activity pool, because that's where your younger kids are. It also includes a large overhang for shade and respite from the sun and weather, including a long covered walkway from the parking lot. This allows you to be able to move kids in and out of the facility during inclement weather, get them back to vans, to their camps, and provide a safe and secure and out of the weather and out of the sun actually as well environment. North of that is the splash pad, the Kiwanis splash pad, as I mentioned, as item A. And you see there's 2 items that are listed as number 3s on them. Those are 2 400-square-foot pavilions that will be located within and around the oak grove. And we're also proposing that there's an ADA-accessible walkway that would wind through that grove without impacting the trees, where you might have some picnic tables and benches and opportunities for people to hang out in the shade and really make this a destination and provide a place for people to eat their lunch and hang out for a while at the aquatic complex. Building number 2 is your changing room and your restrooms. That's a code-required building that would house all the restrooms centrally located, so it's easy access from all the pools. There's another number 3 on the site plan. That's a 1,200-square-foot shade structure, and it's strategically located between the activity pool, giving full view of the activity pool from that shade structure, as well as the competitions pool. And that'll accommodate a number of people under that structure. Building 4 is your existing pool building now. It's the existing building that's there, and that'll have a facelift put on it and will be used for storage, because you need storage. You never have enough storage. And then building 5 is your pool mechanical building. This is where all your systems, your pumps, your aquatic systems will be located, and it'll have a loading dock or a loading bay accessible and dedicated to it. This is where all your chemicals will come in and be delivered as well. So next slide. So this slide here is the architectural program, and I'm going to kind of stay at a high level on this, and then we'll drill down into the building that's highlighted with the yellow dash line, and that is the main building, which will include administration space, concessions, concession seating, locker rooms, restrooms, support spaces, and a divisible meeting room. Building 2, as I mentioned, was the changing room. 3 was the pavilions on the site. And 4 is your existing building. 5 is the new mechanical building that I mentioned earlier. But let's drill down into the administration portion, or the main building, which is located to the south. And by the way, I did fail to mention that one of the other reasons of locating in this building to the south was due to the proximity that the aquatic center gets to the tennis courts. Putting the building as a buffer between the pool noise and the tennis noise will actually help significantly reduce that transference of fun noise into the tennis courts. So here's the main building. Area A is 3,300 square feet, and it includes a ticketing area, a first aid area. Main office and secondary offices are located on the north side of this area. We have the lifeguard room located on the north side of this building as well, so that all these spaces, primary spaces, have view to those splash pads and that activity pool and can deal with any type of emergency very quickly and easily. This portion of the building also includes a break room, kitchenette area, restrooms for staff, and server and IT, or an IT room, and probably a janitor's type room. Item B in this building, which is an open air seating area for concessions, about 900 square feet, and it's an area where people can eat their lunch, hang out under shade, hopefully keeping the food away from the pool. Would also have the potential to include a number of vending machines, helping generate additional revenue for the pool. And it's located adjacent to the concession area, which is listed as item C on the plan. And that's concessions with concession support, and that'd be not a full kitchen, but certainly more prep type activities and coolers for sodas and things like that, and prepared food. The next block in this building is item D. It's the restrooms that are required to serve the multi-purpose room, and that's what their focus would primarily be, since you have the larger restroom structure in the middle of the deck. Area E is an open-air locker room, locker area, and these we envision as day lockers just for the campers to use, or patrons using the pool for the day could lock up some valuables in a locker there. Area F, there's janitorial and mechanical rooms required for building G, which are the portion of the building that's listed as G, is your multi-purpose room. It's a 1,000 square foot divisible room that can be rented out for parties, birthday parties, events. You can hold 2 separate events in it by dividing the room. Also great for inclement weather if you have to put campers in there and have 2 different programs running at once. This portion of the building also opens out to the activity area, which is really where there's going to be a lot more symbiotic relationship of who's renting those rooms for birthdays, because they're right next to the slides, and again, people that are there can observe these areas very, very well. So the building is designed so that it looks out onto the pool deck, with the most vulnerable pools the closest and the most visible. So next, so here are the pretty pictures. Is the rendering of the concept. This is looking northwest, right? Northwest, I think, or northeast. Sorry, northeast. I got my directions backwards. And it shows the entry to the zero entry pool, as you can see in the lower part of the image. And the activity elements, these are just proposed activity elements. These have not been nailed down and been specifically selected, so these are just ideas that we've put into the pool. You can see in the other lobe, there's a little deeper area for kids for volleyball and basketball to play. There's a little obstacle course over the water, and then of course the exciting two slides that are 20 to 30 feet high. You see the centralized shade structure between the 2 pools, again giving great visibility to the activity pool as well as the comp pool, the competition pool, again further north on this image, and then therapy pool, the furthest kind of up in the upper corner, you can see with some shades, sail covers over the pool as well. Next image is looking in the opposite direction. It's looking back south, and it's looking, you can see from this image, Upper right is the administration portion of the building, and then you can kind of see the open area where that covered seating was, the concessions right next to that, and then the meeting room, the multipurpose meeting room is back by the slides, giving it the kind of prime billing of that feature of the park. Again, you can see a clear views from the main pavilion on the deck, shade over the therapy pools, and a little bit of the lazy river out there at the bottom corner. So these next series of slides are some reference images that kind of show you what these might look like in real life. Again, this is the images from the competitive pool where you can have dive meets, competitive swimming events, master swimming events, learn to swim, water aerobics. It really is a versatile pool. You can play water polo and really whatever aquatic activities that the city would like to engage in, this pool can handle it. Next image, please. This is the activity pool. Again, some images of what the toys might look like, what the interactive water features might look like. And on the right side of that slide are the pictures of what these slides might look like. Again, exciting for an older population. So I think the important thing, as Vince mentioned, is this is an intergenerational pool, and it will have an appeal to all generations within the city. So the last slide, second to last slide is our therapy pool slide, and this is, again, the pool that can be heated from about 89 to 94 degrees for therapeutic purposes. It's about a 5-foot deep pool, and again, the plethora of activities that can be housed or programs that can be done on this pool are wide and diverse, appealing to a great range of populations. And then the last image I'm presenting on is the everyone's favorite, the lazy river, where you can just sit on a tube and float around. Or you can actually exercise in here, running with the current or against the current. And again, we've smoothed the curves out on the concept so that, one, you don't need as many lifeguards, and that those lifeguards that are posted have clear view of the pool. So with that, I'll take a breather and answer any questions on the plan that you might have.
Okay, overall comments on the concepts? Vice Mayor, anything?
It looks quite familiar to what we've seen in the past. It looks certainly logical. Great use of the property as you see it, as you see the property lying there. So I really don't have any questions from a big overview at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
I'll wait till the end, I guess, for any questions that I have. Nothing right now.
Okay.
I'll do the same, but I'll ask this question now. I might have concern when we had our one-on-one meetings, and I still have it, are the multi-purpose rooms, which are a huge revenue generator and very popular, are they big enough? I mean, I think they're 1,000 square foot each, or what is it?
1,000 square feet total,
When
so
you-
about 500 square feet each divided.
Do you guys think they're big enough?
They could always be bigger.
Right. I mean, obviously, you might have to give up something somewhere else, though. I'm not suggesting, but I mean, I just
We actually
showed
had
that
it, we actually showed it bigger, but we knew there was some budget constraints as well.
Right.
We felt that 1,000 square feet would be adequate.
Yeah. And again, I just didn't want to shoot ourselves in the foot, since I know that's extremely popular in terms of rentals. And, if we do it too small, then we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot the other way. So, okay, I just put that out there. But other than that, I'll hold anything else I have.
Commissioner?
Just a question, this is probably pretty in the weeds, but with regards to the 25 meter by 25 yard, the positioning of your diving pool, is that off to the side of the 25 yard course, or is it in the middle, or has that been determined yet?
Well, let me go back to the plan. Let me show them. It's on the 25 meter side, isn't it? Yeah, so if you see in the plan, item D, there are two, and I know they're small, unfortunately, kind of perpendicular dark lines. Those are the dive towers. I believe those are low, and that's the deeper part of the pool, obviously. I believe those are located on the 25 meter side. I think the 25 opposite, 20. Thank you, Lisa. Looking at the 25 yard side. Yes, thanks.
And I asked the question only because for competition and swim meets, 25 yards is going to be the more prevalent course. I think for training purposes, it's good to have that 25-meter aspect, but I do want to say, though, I'm very excited about this, and the community is very excited, and after getting a tour from Alicia and Vince, I'm firmly convinced that there will reach a point where no amount of duct tape is going to keep that pool together, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have nothing at this point.
Okay. Then we'll go on to look at the site plan, the options for site plan and phasing and the budget options. Jocelyn?
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
So while we are very eager to bring this long-awaited project to fruition for the community, we recognize the likelihood that the aquatic complex will be built all at once is nominal, and we must therefore make this a multi-phased legacy project. Should you approve the master plan presented today, the remaining slides outline 4 potential phasing options and their respective budgets for our first phase of construction. These budgets include estimates provided by professional cost estimators that George and his team work with. Any future phasing will be developed based upon what is constructed in the first phase, the remaining construction elements, and subsequent availability for those amenities. Serving as a point of reference, this first slide illustrates the project in totality. It is inclusive of all of the proposed features, the administration building, the restroom and changing area, shade structures, and mechanical building, as well as the activity pool, therapy, and main pools, and last but not least, the lazy river. The budget also includes site development and decking. This slide breaks down the individual costs of the aquatic complex's components. The administration building at 8,870 square feet lists a square footage cost of $208.80. This is an average cost, as some areas of this building, such as the offices and restrooms, are estimated at a higher cost per square foot, while the open air spaces, such as the concession and lockers, are estimated at a lower cost per square foot. The restroom building is estimated at a higher cost per square foot at $291.29, primarily due to the extensive amount of plumbing that is required. The 3 bodies of water, the main pool, therapy pool, and activity pool, are all estimated at $300 per square foot, totaling $2 million, $1 million, and $1.7 million, respectively. Installation and assembly of the 2 slides is estimated at $900,000, while the lazy river is estimated to cost $1 million. The smaller shade structures and the picnic area are included in the Parks and Recreation repair and maintenance schedule, and hopefully will be funded at $250,000 in the city's FY24 general fund, and will be carried forward until construction occurs. That's why you see that total is 0. The concrete decking is estimated at just under $600,000, while the site development is estimated at $1.27 million. The subtotal cost for this option is $11.6 million. All 4 budget options include a 5% contingency for reserves and another 12% allocated to architectural and engineering fees, including surveys and geotech reports. In this budget, these line items total $582,000 and $1.4 million, respectively, bringing the grand total to construct the entire aquatic complex in one phase to $13.6 million. The second option for Phase 1 construction includes everything from the total project except the lazy river. Here you can see the north end of the complex would be landscaped until future development of the lazy river occurred. This is another reason we organized the lazy river to be on the perimeter of the complex so that it could be added later with relatively minimal disruption to the complex. So in eliminating the lazy river from the budget, contingency and reserves are reduced to a new subtotal of $10.5 million with a total budget of $12.3 million. It is important to note that all of the remaining budget options include the cost of electrical stub-outs and pre-plumbing so that future phases of construction can be completed with the least amount of impact possible. Moving on to the third phase, construction option. This option also excludes the lazy river as well as the slides. Thank you. This plan now shows that it excludes the lazy river as well as the slides. All other buildings and amenities are included. We're presenting this as an option because removing this amenity carries a large price tag and therefore easily reduces the total budget should funding availability be significantly less than the total project budget. Additionally, slides are reasonably easy to install at a later date. Yet, on the other side of this coin is that eliminating this feature also eliminates an amenity that would serve as a large attraction for teens, which, as we know, is a hard-to-reach demographic. The option of eliminating the lazy river and slides further reduces the contingency and reserve totals by approximately $1.1 million for a total budget of $11.25 million. This last option builds upon options 2 and 3 in that it eliminates the lazy river and the slides as well as the activity pool. The footprint currently identified for the activity pool and slides, shaded in green, would become a lawn area until future construction occurs. This option isn't really preferred as it only replaces the amenities we currently have and creates a large open space in between the entrance and admission areas to the complex. Yet, if funding constraints require us to identify additional cost reductions, this plan accomplishes that. So this budget for option 4, which again eliminates the lazy river, the slides, and the activity pool, totals $9.3 million. We'll conclude our presentation with a snapshot of the aquatic complex schedule. We're hopeful that you approve the master plan and identify one of the 4 phase construction options during the upcoming April 4th meeting so that we may move forward with presenting to advisory committees and ultimately begin project design with the ultimate goal of opening in October of 2025. At this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have to help facilitate your discussion.
Okay, I'm going to start this way this time. Do you have any questions on any of that?
I do. I mean, I don't know how deep we're going to get, but, I guess one comment as we move forward is, and this is just a comment, I just think it would be good for us to reframe why we want a pool in Dunedin, right? I mean, well, obviously it's hot as heck, and we only have one. And I know that when I was in risk management here, like I always saw the numbers of kids that we had in summer camps and youth camps and the impact by the limitation that we had because of our pool. Like we're in a community in Florida and we were extremely limited because we just didn't have a great pool. And that's been true for 30 years. I mean, 25, 30 years. So, I mean, I just think we should reframe for the community, like why this is important, like who we're really going to serve and why it's important so that we can continue to make sure that everybody's kind of thinking of that in that community asset mind and what it does for our youth, for our adults, et cetera, and our seniors, big time for our seniors. And actually, because I think even in our survey, it showed the seniors were even more interested in this amenity. So, and kind of along those lines, Vince, I know in one of our early master plans, we talked about the percentage of homes in Dunedin that actually have pools, because we're an older community and a lot of homes don't have them. Let's see. So I asked about the multipurpose room, parking. So do we feel like parking is going to be an issue with the bigger pool?
I think we're going to have enough parking there. There is some areas we could create some additional spaces.
So I'm going to say this now.
Even
you guys,
when the spray ground is going, the pool going, there's still parking in that area.
Okay, and I know we've talked about this, but again, the old fire station, what's in the old fire station,
what we're storing in the old fire station, because it was never intended that we keep the old fire station, even the yard, is there a better place to store all that stuff out there and create a kind of a better parking, maybe even pickleball courts? You know, I just think we need to look at that as we're looking at how we're going to, you know, do this big facility. Let me ask this question because a couple of our citizens just asked it to me. You know, the proposed hours and months of usage and how that would work, and in terms of the thought process of the proposal from staff.
Well, I believe that we're going to be going back to a 12-month operation. Now, the hours may be reduced during the winter months based on there's, you know, schools in and based on the use, probably the morning use. Alicia might be able to give a little more insight on that question.
During the winter months, you know, we would be looking at having our masters teams and our youth swim teams and that kind of nature. But we may hold off like the middle of the day and then come back in the evening when everyone's out of school. There could be an opportunity for bringing in homeschool and, you know, there's some other opportunities that we could do in there.
Okay, so, you know, obviously you guys haven't fully vetted all this, but, so, you know, one thing I think as we move along, we need to understand well is, and maybe you can answer it now, like what do we currently have as staff, and what are we looking at in terms of the operational increase for staff? Have you guys thought about that? And can you answer that?
Oh, Alicia's thought about it. I'm looking at her face. Of course she has.
Yeah.
You know, with the staff that we have now versus the staff that we will need, will go up considerably with this new facility. I mean, you'll have more bodies of water. If there is the lazy river, if that is part of the phase, you know, there's going to be a higher need for lifeguards in that area, the activity pool, et cetera. So there will be an increase in staffing for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I'm a big advocate for the pool. I just think that we all need to, you know, kind of understand how that, I mean, I love the lazy river, but it scares me, the staffing for that piece. You know, the rest, I'm not as...
The traditional ratio for staffing for a body of water is 1 to 25. So depending on what that first phase of construction looks like and what we're actually able to build will help drive what the staffing looks like. Gotcha. And we'd be able to give you a more concrete idea as to what that cost would incur. But then the flip side is that we would obviously be anticipating a much higher cost recovery than we currently do now.
No, great, and I'm glad you actually added that, which is, kind of goes to the heart of my question even on the rentals, making sure we kind of nail that right, because I know it's really popular and it's where a lot of communities have gotten a lot of cost recovery, so that's a great point.
Lisa and I have done a lot of preliminary exercises in terms of figuring out costs, but like I said, it'll really be dependent upon what phase one looks like.
Okay, and then...
We also do have some history on other similar facilities and what those cost recovery has been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously, you know, I don't know, I'll steal it from you because I know you're going to say it, but obviously we want to make it affordable for our community, and especially, you know, maybe, you know, kids that maybe can't afford it otherwise. So we want to keep both those things in mind. And then I guess my last question right now might be just the what we're calling kind of more the competitive pool. That's also would be general swim time pool. I mean, it's not just competitive.
Lap swimming.
Lap swimming, anybody that wants to do that and not have kids, you know, burying them with balls and stuff. Okay. Okay. I think that's all I have right now. I will say I can't see doing it without the slides right from the start. You know, if you're going to have a big splash, you have a big splash that brings the community in and gets them excited. So, okay.
And that also will generate the additional income.
Right. So that's it for me right now. Commissioner?
Thank you. Yeah, so in the interest of reframing this, obviously the projected costs are I mean, this is a significant project, but to kind of put this in perspective, you take a look at the other like resources in the area here, it's fairly limited, and Dunedin needs to, I mean, we need to make sure that that we are emphasizing the multi-generational aspect of this. I really like the way it's characterized from, the beginning swimmer all the way to the advanced swimmer. And so back to the other pools in the area, you've got Suncoast YMCA, you've got Greater Palm Harbor YMCA, you've got Long Center, and then you've got Clearwater Beach as municipal. And those, in my opinion, are when we have a plan for a beautiful facility that replaces a facility that's been there for 45 years is absolutely important to this community. So I just want to make sure that in the interest of framing this for the community and the importance of, and having grown up in swimming, the programs from very small to very old are so important to the development of our youth. And just from I'm at Long Center probably 3 times a week, and they do have a pool that's very similar to the one to the north, and that has just been a great place for the older community to go and do water aerobics and those sorts of things. So the plan coming together, but I would also say this, I think the phased approach is exactly the way to go, and so those are my comments in terms of kind of the project as it is, but I'm a big supporter.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing original, but the questions that I wanted to consider. It's not. I don't want this to be quoted as a frustration that I have, but as we look at all of the things that people might like to have, and Vince is very much aware of that. And we had a study here a couple of years ago where archery was really high on a list of some of the requested items, or some very popular items. And of course, those things kind of do change, et cetera. But I always liked the idea we had this huge area called the community center. And of course, obviously, we put a pool there, which is, I guess if you put a pool anywhere, you'd put it in the community center. So obviously then that makes sense. I've attempted to talk to a number of folks about this, just simply the pool. And then when I talked to them about the pool, I talked to them about other items as well. Sort of like, would you rather have a concept? Do we have an update on any of that, of a question when you're actually given options as to would you like this, or would you like this, or would you like this, or would you like that, for like the community center? Do we have anything that's recent about that? Because when I ask the question, I'm asking about things that I think are coming up, or that I think that things that we're working on, and keeping aware of the activity area that we have at the community center that is used by different organizations, not all the time, but is put to well use. Do we have any studies like that, or we have input on that?
We had a study done in 2019, and then again in November of 21 was the most recent. And those are the type of questions that were asked, but they were all aquatic related, facility related.
So we've not really done when we originally did the community center, what were some of the thoughts at that point of time of what would go in the community center?
Mo?
I'm sorry, what was
You were here for that.
What was it? I missed the
Community
time.
center, what was the thought about the type of programming that the community center would have?
Well, I mean, there was a huge discussion at the time of the community center, whether the pool should be attached to the back of the community center, or it should be where it is when it was redone. But again, it was always like, it's been forever the plan, if this is what you're asking, to do a new pool, a more modernized pool. But again, it was decided ultimately not to do it attached to the community center, just because of the dollars it would take at the time. But I think more importantly, we wanted to save the Grand Lawn for all the activities like Highland Games, et cetera, and not, and that basically would take away the whole Grand Lawn behind the community center. So that was the thinking.
So is that was that so we heard that from Mo, and I'm not asking for somebody to conflict with that, but Vince, is that sort of how the direction went for the, because I've always known it to be the pool. Okay, community center that would have this facility there, and then there was going to be a pool there, and there was an art center there. But
In this survey, we asked questions like what you like most about Highlander Pool now, whether it was the hours or the seasons. We asked questions what we'd like to see most, and again, that zero-depth pool, lazy river, water slides, 1, 2, and 3. Support amenities, pretty much what I mentioned earlier in the presentation. We asked about locker rooms, amenities. We asked about what type of program you'd like to see. So we did ask a variety of questions that would get us to where we are today.
thank you. I'm sorry so I was asking for the general layout, and that was great, Vince. Super.
I mean,
but
John, just to kind of tag
Yeah.
on that, obviously, at the time, the big discussion was the efficiencies you would gain by attaching the boat. But again, the Great Lawn won out over what efficiencies you might gain.
Yeah, 'cause I've
by
said the
putting them
same
together,
thing.
By putting them together.
I mean, so the focus has always been on the pool being there. Where it would be is another question, but, so now I'm kind of asking about other uses. So for example, when I ask a number of people, which is not statistically sound at all, when I ask people about what would they like to see in the community center, well, I get some other kinds of feedbacks from different people. It all depends who I ask. If I ask, would you like a pool, or would you rather have a racket sports area? Boy, that just all depends. That all depends on who I'm talking to. And so I was just wondering what was the original thought that would end up being there? What ended up being there was a lot of water stuff, spray park. We ended up with tennis. Well, we had tennis courts. We ended up with tennis courts. And then we had the basketball, several basketball facilities, et cetera, et cetera. And I just wondered what the plan was back in the day for that property.
For the community
Yes,
center?
for the community center.
It was before my time here, so I really can't speak specifically.
Well, I mean, the
I do
pool-
know now the biggest trend and the biggest usage of the facility is fitness.
I think if we were renovating the community center in conjunction with the aquatic complex, that we could marry those two needs together and have the conversations about what the community center serves for the community. But knowing that the pool exists where it does now, and that how things have evolved in terms of the events and the programming space that we use for the Great Lawn, positioning it closer to the community center and folding it into the fold of that footprint, I don't think merits and makes much sense, because we've already evolved and grown into such a large event community. And when we were developing the plans and figuring out the different bodies of water or amenities to include in this current complex that we're proposing, we kept that multi-generational concept as kind of the forefront, as our guiding light in terms of what should be included. And so that's why we came up with that progression of use, the really safe and sound introduction for non-swimmers, all the way progressing to the activity pool, the competition pool, and then the lazy river. And we wanted it to be more than just a place for people to come and do a swim lesson. While that is incredibly valuable in our coastal community, we also wanted this to be a gathering place and a real destination for the community, so that it wasn't just an in and out.
The biggest question I got when I talked about this, I didn't present anything to anybody, I didn't show anybody anything or what have you. The biggest question I always got was, who's going to end up using this? That was the biggest question. The most frequent question was, who's going to end up using this facility? That principally came from people that were questioning pools. So, that begs another question. They had a pool, okay? They had a pool. So, you can sort of take a little bit away from that. But that was the biggest question. So that delivers a direct question. Who do we believe will end up using the pool itself, the aquatic center?
So I can say that, we have our high school that would utilize our facility. They do now. Another really important piece, like I said, swim lessons outreach is very big to me. So we are working our way into the school systems to have swim lessons come to our facility. So that's another big one. Our local communities, we have our assisted living components that can come in, participate in programming, and then just families, that we want to have a space for our families to come to enjoy themselves, not just for the swim lesson, but to also take some of the things they learned and, build on that through fun. And then additionally, our children that are teens and tweens, there's not much for them to do out there, and we're always trying to get them to come and stay with us. So having some cool interactive features will keep them there, and they're safe, so you know where your child is at all times.
So the secondary part of that question was, are those going to be Dunedin residents, or are they going to come from other locations, or from, specifically, I was asked a number of times from northern locations. I'm just asking how you felt about that. I'll do that really quick, and then I want to have a better question.
So to answer that question, ultimately, our Dunedin residents will be utilizing the facility, but that additional revenue could come from non-residents. And I think if we frame our admission rates, we can, give our residents a little bit of a break and, have our non-residents come in at a higher rate.
Because as we all know, we've done that in the past on lots of different things. So
Yes.
you want to belong to our tennis, you want to come and play at our tennis, you're not from here, right? So that flows as a logical presentation. How many people are going to be allowed into this facility, or for example, using, if we have the lazy river, are we going to allow just Jeff and I to be in there at a certain time because we're kind of big guys, right? And how many do you allow in there, or how does that work?
Well, I will tell you, every body of water has a capacity. So how to
And that would take it. There'd be no other capacity, right?
Yeah, so
I'm just seriously asking because it's a big thing. And how do we allow just a certain number of people in there for a certain time period, or?
it all depends on how it's programmed, to be quite honest with you. During a typical open swim time frame, the hope is that all those bodies of water will be open and available. Again, we cannot exceed the maximum capacity of each body of water, so that's really important. And then making sure we have all the lifeguards in place to meet that 1 to 25 ratio.
So Jeff, we have to go there between 6 and 7 in the morning. No, thank you, thank you. As you know, I spoke very kindly to this whole program, and I like the layout, so I'm not questioning the layout. I'm just asking some of the questions that I've been asked while I've been attempting to get some answers, and I've not done very well on getting input to this from residents, just because what I really need to say is, do you like blue or do you like red? I mean, that's the best way to get an answer from somebody. Otherwise, we get off in tangents, and it depends on what they wish to have. In our particular case here, we're always asking the question, are we serving the largest number of Dunedin residents that we can? Because I'm not looking just at the pool. I like the pool. I'm looking at what happens if we have a choice coming up down the road. Would you rather have a or a B or a C here, or some alternative like that? So I'm just trying to get as much information as what I can while we're talking here. It just kind of helps me as I kind of reframe some of this to our residents as we go down this road of we've got this big capital projects, and how do you feel about it? So thank you. If you have any additional comments about that.
I really think we've covered what we're looking to accomplish. You start out with getting children acclimated to water, and then they start taking swim lessons, and we have a lot of programs that do that. Some programs that we have are free, as Alicia was saying. We're working with San Jose Elementary. We also have our Every Child a Swimmer with the Kiwanis, and then they move on. Then there's the fun stuff that gets them there, and right now it's mostly exercise, lap swimming, and swim lessons, people may stay an hour. We want to have a concession stand. We want to see people stay for 2 hours or 3 hours and really enjoy of all ages, abilities. So I think we really have it covered, and I think George laid it out very well from the progression from entering to where you go once you're inside. That gives you all of those activities for all different age people. And we've started out the presentation by talking about multi-generational. And of course, we want to make sure our Dunedin residents are well taken care of as well.
No, thank you.
And it's
And
affordable.
again, the layout, I really don't have any, I like that. So it's just really about the other part of it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. How many trees will be removed?
Don't know exactly yet, but as few as we can possibly, as few as we have to remove. The goal is to maintain as much of the tree canopy as possible. So we get a survey that identifies exactly where they are and the final layout. We don't really have a count on that.
Okay. And is there any chance to review the plan so that we can have comment on the trees being removed?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
There are a small group of trees near the tennis courts on the east side where the building will be that would have to be removed. There's nothing real large or significant there. As far as any of the other trees, I don't have that just at this.
And you got some beautiful, beautiful trees on
Yes.
that property.
Yep.
The trees that might have to be mitigated would be on the east and southern portions of the existing complex. That beautiful tree canopy that's along the western edge would not be touched.
Yeah, they always did that, preserve that as much to the extent as possible. You know, you have your existing building kind of tucked up in there currently, so that building would be removed. And that's, again, another reason to bring the main building to the south of the property, because the trees that would get impacted on the south side are not as significant and I think we believe they were of less quality than the actual grove to the west, which really is spectacular. And right now, in my opinion, underutilized. It could definitely be an attraction. It's a park unto itself almost.
And I agree with that, so thank you. In the numbers, the cost, is there any solar considered in that financing?
Not in the estimate at this point. Being a LEED accredited professional, we design, and our project manager as well, so we design everything with LEED kind of in the back of mind, whether a municipality wants to go in that direction for certification. Meeting basic code gets you a base LEED certification if you were to go to certify it, but it meets the intent of the base LEED certification. So by meeting code, you will have efficient buildings. Solar could certainly be added. The existing building is a good opportunity. The chemical building could be a good opportunity to put solar on. But you're not going to really get a benefit out of solar for heating the pools because you would need a giant farm for that. But you could power some buildings with it. And that certainly could be looked at, and there are grants that can make that piece available. Certainly, if we choose to have us move forward in the construction document process, that's one of the things that we will talk about, and kind of the refining of the programming is, do these buildings want to be solar ready? Because we can make them solar ready so that if you get a grant at a later time, you could put solar on the buildings, and they're chased and they're wired to be, and the panels are ready to receive all that. Same with generator ready, whether one of the buildings needed to be, on an emergency generator, but you didn't want to purchase that, we could make it generator ready as well.
I am very pleased that you have LEED certification in the back of your mind. It would be wonderful if we had solar in the back of our minds as well.
Jeff, may I jump in on that with you? I have two notes here that I missed on, and one of them was on the solar side. I brought this up at the last meeting when we were talking about a building, and we have made a commitment to have our government buildings in 2035. So this is effective in 2025. So it would seem as though we should have some idea of what that might cost. And then the heating of it, the reason why we put that big thing on the other pool, and we used to ride by it all the time when we had the big cover on the pool, wondering how much we were using of electricity to keep that. So that's a good point.
Well, thank you. The lap lanes, currently, how how frequently, when are those lap lanes open now?
The lap lanes are always available during our open swim hours right now. So we'll be opening in April. Our hours will be 3 to 6, Monday through Thursday, and then Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 5. So our goal is that if our facility is open on a year-round basis, that there's always lanes available for lap swimming.
And so do you think with this new design, will those times be expanded or the number of lanes expanded? Will the residents who enjoy that type of recreation have better access?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. And we're also looking at phases. And so if we were not to go with the activity pool at this time, are those activities that are designed as part of the activity pool, could we have those activities in the lap pool? And so if we say no to the activity pool, we would also be saying no to all the activities that are designed in that pool.
If we didn't have the activity pool, you pretty much have what we have now, except more improved and more bathrooms. So the answer would be no. We wouldn't be able to provide all that activity and probably keep people at the facility for the amount of time we feel we can. And these numbers are coming from some of the places that we've visited, Northport, for example. They had all these, they had the lazy river, they had the activity pool, the slides, and their average stay was 3 hours. So without the activity pool, we would not be able to have, we'd have pretty much what we have now, only newer.
Okay. And when it comes to the phasing, and John kind of touched on as far as the capacity or the usage of these different aquatic activities, is there more activity? Do you think we're going to get more attention with the activity pool or the lazy river?
Depends on your age range.
Right? Oh, yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah. I think the activity pool has more options to it. You got the beach entry, the zero depth entry. You got for the younger kids that can still be in an area to play, shoot baskets or play some volleyball, especially spray toys, and then you got your little deeper water 5 foot of water for the slide. So I think that if I had my choice, it would be the activity pool and slides.
Okay. And this might be more of a design question, and I do not attend at this point, or it's been a long time since I've attended a high school swim meet. But the way it's designed now, the diving boards are separate from the lanes. Do they have diving competition and swimming competition at the same time? And with this new design, the diving boards occupy part of those lanes or a portion of that pool, so there's not a separation. So does that mean that the high school swim meets would have to be redesigned or refocused with this design?
So currently, right now, the diving portion of the competition occurs during the warm-up session for the swimmers. Then we currently change the lanes so that they can swim in another direction. With this new pool, the pool is going to be up to code. So the only thing that we would have to do is move only 2 lanes so that they can do their diving competition. We're still doing warm-ups, but the transition of getting into that competition for the swimmers would be far less.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all that I have.
Okay. I don't really have any questions. I mean, for anybody that's watching, we all met individually with our staff and reviewed a lot of this, so this is not new to us individually. It's just our first time to be able to talk about it together. So I don't really have a lot of questions. They're really more comments, and then we'll open it up to the public. But the one thing I did express a concern for in our one-on-ones was the proximity of the concession to the activity pool and lines form if you're on a Saturday afternoon and it's open swim, you're gonna have lines with that concession right there. To me, it's a problem waiting to happen. How to solve that, I have no idea. But as a mother that went with our group of kids, we would always go to Largo, because Largo has, now their facility's aged, okay, but Largo, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, was the place to take your kids. And I think it was like, at that time, I don't know how much it is, it was like $8 a day per kid. So it wasn't cheap, but let me tell you, it was the place to go. And there are lines that you have to get in. So there's nothing more annoying than that. So I just, y'all can figure that out. I don't know how to figure it out, but it's too close. I can tell by looking at it, it's too close.
Yeah, and we did bring that question to
Yeah.
our consultant.
And like I said, you guys can figure it out, however that was. That was the big concern I had. Affordability, but I do think that how we typically do things is Dunedin residents pay one price and anybody from around pays another. I mean, anybody that had kids when I had a kid, when I had a younger, my son's 24 now, so I mean, he wouldn't go to a pool if you paid him money, except with his camp kids. So, no, he now works with camp kids. But, everybody in Dunedin went to Largo, to that facility. So, yeah, you're going to get other communities around us. But by having that split pay policy, because the benefit should be to the people who are paying the taxes to get it. That's the theory. And if you're coming from, we're not attracting tourism. That's not what we're doing. But if we're going to get Palm Harbor kids and Clearwater kids and even Largo kids, although I don't think we'll get Largo kids because they got a version of it for themselves, yeah, they'll pay a higher price, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I remember when our pool, well, Jeff and I went to the original pool, which was over off of Virginia behind where Fire Admin is.
Long time ago.
Oh, yeah. I'm 57, I'm not going to lie, and yeah, I was going there every Saturday consistently. And all it was a little concession, lockers, and a square pool. But I went there every single Saturday on my banana seat bike. That's what I did. That's what we all did. Because, back in the day, Dunedin was a sleepy, boring little place to be. And that was the thing to do. We're not that today, but, and then they built, what was it, 77, 78? 74. Oh, God. Is that when they built the new pool? And yeah, the big bubble.
Yeah, the bubble.
Well, I'm just going to be honest, as a high schooler, 78, 79, 80, we were sneaking in that pool on the weekends at night when the bubble wasn't on there. So it's always been a pool has always been a place where young people want to gather. And as you all said, the biggest piece that we are missing is the teens. We were really hoping that the skate park would get that going, but those are younger and younger. And yeah, we do get teens at the skate park. But the thing I realized raising Thomas was that, once they're 13, if you don't literally force them to do something, they're not doing anything. And there isn't much. So I see the pool and it's the facility itself. I see Friday night events for teenagers. You get a DJ in and you have open swim. Only for teenagers, even high school. I see a lot of opportunity there to engage that, but I do see it as intergenerational. I agree with Commissioner Gao. I think we've said any new buildings should have solar. It needs to have solar. Even if it doesn't take away all the energy use, we have committed to this. We need to keep our commitment. And I am so happy to have Natalie on the committee to be looking at all of this, and the lead and everything else. Our high school Falcons swim team has been using our pool for I don't know, since I was born, really. And whatever we do needs, I'm assuming you've already done it. I don't think I ever asked you this, but if you haven't, you will. You got to sit down with them. Make sure we've got the accommodations for them. And if there are larger needs, well, then we need, you need to let us know, and we need to engage the school board. Because maybe there is some cost sharing that can go on. Who knows? Maybe they say they want their own lockers. Remember, the baseball team asked for that at one point or another. I don't know what that is, but there can be cost sharing. So, you stay on top of that, I'm sure, Jeff, as our school liaison, but we want to accommodate them. And then, don't forget, summer camps. So again, I'll just refer to Thomas. He was in summer camps every single year, because I wasn't letting that boy sit at home and sleep till noon. That wasn't going to happen. And then he became a junior leader and took your programs, and then he became a camp counselor. And every single day, those kids go to the pool because it's hot. Whether they're in the community center camp and they're in the air all day, right? Or whether they're at hammock and being outside all day, they're all converging to that pool. And that's kind of the highlight of their day. They love all the other stuff, but that's sort of that's the big thing for those kids. Because a lot of them, and those are Dunedin kids, because not a lot of people are coming from outside of Dunedin because it's cost prohibitive, really, if you've got your kid in camp all summer long. That's the highlight of their day. So there's so many different layers of usage today. Think about what it can be. So I'm supportive of the project completely. I have been since I walked in the door 16 years ago. I knew we needed something. I did make the argument a few months back, before we got into all the other projects, that I wanted it all done at once. And if I had my druthers, I still feel that way, but I totally understand that there are multiple needs. So I'm okay with going phased. I don't want to comment on what those phases should be. I think you all and Jennifer and Les sit down and talk about how we make it happen and what's best for the overall organization with all of those projects. I will go along with it, whatever you all tell us. What I will say is I think it's really important to, take care of all of these things. I don't want to pick one project over another. I refuse to do that. I will not do that. I think the things that are being proposed are all things that help our community in one way or another. They all need to be addressed, and that's what I want to do. If I had my druthers, I'd rather do it all at once because it's so much more effective. But I'm okay with stepping back and seeing what's good for the overall community. And I love the idea of all of this. I think it, hopefully whatever we build here, we can make it last longer than 40 years. My guess is pools just don't do that. But, so I am okay with whatever you all decide is what's important. Anything else I wanted to add to that?
I like that.
Huh?
You're okay with deciding whatever we decide is important. That's good.
Yeah, we'll see.
We. The operative word was, I meant important for features.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I meant.
All the power, so you know.
Yeah, no, I meant what you guys decide was in features and the money piece and how you're going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, to me, what's important is all of the projects. They're all, and I think also another thing that's really important to say to the community who might be listening or, whatever. What typically happens at the beginning of the penny fund, the penny fund gets renewed every 10 years. We're in year 3 of our 10-year period. What always happens is the last 2 years of the last penny and the first 2 years of the next penny, is you spend all this time planning on how you're going to spend those capital dollars. And you front load those projects at the beginning of the penny so that you have all that time to pay for it till the next penny. You're only giving yourself this, we're not going to be paying for this for 30 years. More like 8 or less. So yes, it does look like we're doing a lot of stuff for a lot of money all at once. But we
Do you
did
want to
the,
comment on the signature project? Isn't this the last of the
this
signature
is one of the,
projects?
yes, that when we went out to vote,
The last, yeah.
when we, Pinellas County, went out to ask for renewal, this was a project listed on one of the things we wanted to do with this penny. So, it's not unusual for us if you look at 10 years ago, at the beginning of the 2010, I guess, same thing. It was front load everything so that you have time to pay. And so what we're doing is not unusual. It looks like you're out of your mind, but you can go back and look at all the projects, and there's a lot of projects that we've done it this way throughout the penny. And we had a pandemic, and we got ARPA funds. So we're actually almost a little late getting started with this stuff
Well, it's,
because of all of those things. But now we have ARPA that can help subsidize and not use all our penny fund, which is fantastic. I mean, that's a big deal. So, actually, even if it was postponed because of COVID, it ended up being great in that manner because we won't be sucking every penny out of our penny fund and leaving, like Vice Mayor likes to say, powder dry for future things if they come up. So I am going to open this up to the public.
Mayor, may I ask one quick question?
Sure.
That I did not ask before. Operational costs. What part of operational costs, about what might that be? The concern that I've heard was about keeping that pool heated, where we want to keep that heated and the cost of doing that. And you had mentioned, how big of a solar farm we'd have to do that. But how much of the operating costs are covered by the charges to the user? So 2 questions. Roughly, what does it cost to operate a pool like this on a yearly basis? And
When Largo opened theirs, they were running about 90% recovery rate.
And that was at that $8 fee, I think, back in the day.
Yeah, and they also had time limits on how long you could be. It was that popular.
It's like 4 hours or something, 3 to 4.
Yeah, it might have even been less than that, but maybe 2 hours. Do you know?
It's 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Now,
Yeah.
but I think when I was going, it was like 4.
So we're thinking that we can recover probably 75%.
does
Which is-
Largo have,
No.
no, so they're paying the full boat for the electrical charge. Do they have the same layout, the same system that we would have in keeping a heated pool like this, that's here?
I would have to check, but I believe they use gas.
Yep.
Thank you.
We can find that out.
Thank you.
Well, even a heat pump would be better than gas. Gas is, make it happen quickly, but gas is really expensive. I have a gas. That's why I know. I never use it. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public for any public feedback. Please come forward and give us your thoughts, give us your name and address. Darn, girl, we haven't seen you in a long time.
I know.
You're
I'm
back.
sorry. Well,
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Mash.
1195 Ford Lane, here in Dunedin. I have a lot of the same questions y'all have had here on the commission about who it was going to be, and I got really tickled when I listened to the mayor talk about how she went to Largo. So I know that that's probably going to be what's happening, is people will be coming to this. And that kind of stems up another set of questions. The cost. You mentioned having the possibility of a Dunedin resident versus a non-resident. And I know y'all know, but our family median income is $47,000, and that could push a lot of people into not being able to come. That's not a lot of money when you consider the cost of everything else going on right now. The space usage, I was at the Sterling Park meeting, and a lot of people wanted those tennis courts and pickleball courts moved to the community center. That was one of the feedbacks that came out of that meeting, and now we're eating up property with some of these extensions on the pool that might take away from what could potentially be more pickleball and more tennis. I don't play either of them, so I don't have a dog in that vote. I'm concerned about staffing. We still go out to restaurants and we don't have anybody. They're closed on days that they weren't closed before. And I'm concerned that what if staff doesn't show up, but the people show up, and we don't have the staff to run and operate that facility. I know the Lazy River requires a lot more staff. According to the safety regulations, it says at every turn, every bend, there should be a lifeguard. That puts in a lot of lifeguards, plus the people who are running the tickets, the concession, and all of that. That's a lot of staff. And if somebody doesn't show up or we can't get the staff, what happens to the use of that pool and that facility? Noise from the neighbors. There is a neighborhood that sort of backs up to that area. And I have neighbors on 2 houses down on either side of me that have young kids and pools, and the screaming is nonstop. When they're in the pool, they are screaming. I don't know what it is. I taught 5th grade for 40 years, but they never screamed. But little ones scream when they're having fun. So and that can also alert you that there's a problem. So that's a concern. Parking, if we have tennis going on and a ball game and the pool, we're going to run out of parking pretty quick, or at least reasonable parking. Weather closures, how will we notify and announce weather closures if, just like at the golf course, you're sort of on your own. They don't even send out a horn anymore to tell you to get off the course.
I'm sorry. Good. Get out. So I'm concerned with weather closures. That's going to limit the amount of time available. The spray park seems redundant to the activity pool, so you might want to reconsider that. Bleachers for the competition pool. When they have competitions for diving, don't you set up bleachers for people to watch? And I don't see a space for that. And will the whole thing be fenced in?
Thank you. Anyone else wish to come forward and speak? Welcome. Give us your name and address for the record.
Walter Mensch, 2202 Gulfview Boulevard, and lucky to live in Dunedin. Love living in Dunedin. I just have a few comments more than questions. It was already mentioned about bleachers, but I'd also wonder if some kind of hoists or assists for the disabled or physically challenged, we talked about making use of that one pool. Maybe they need some kind of assistance getting in. On the other side, I'd just like to talk about revenue. I brought up my Park and Rec's card. Maybe we should consider different levels of the card, or anyway, for pool passes and such, maybe driving range, whatever, to help defer the cost and also identify your residents. And then on the other side, we're going to be talking about the golf course. Maybe membership, in order to attract younger people, would include activities to the pool, possibly the driving range. Maybe the driving range that exists today, the public range, could be an amenity for the public course, or for the 18-hole course, and I know there are talks about changes to the existing driving range there for the course. Maybe that could just be incorporated with the one range that exists today. Anyway, that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Hi, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Coach Kyle Trelka, 1733 Ragland Ave. I'm the swim coach that Alicia has partnered with the last 8 years at the Highlander Pool, running both the Masters team and the junior swim team. The junior swim team is essentially the step between lessons and a year-round swim program. I operate a swim team out of Clearwater High School pool. I'm involved with Clearwater High School Swim and Dive, Calvary Swim and Dive, and then I've also done things out of Morningside Pool and other community pools in the area. Our mission statement is cultivating individuals to be a light in their community, because we really feel that through swimming and through aquatics, it gives young people life lessons that will carry on whether they stop swimming or not as they grow older. But hard work, discipline, teamwork, camaraderie, goals, and how to achieve those goals and taking the steps to achieve those goals. Gary Hall Sr. was an Olympian back in the 60s and 70s, I think Munich and New Mexico. He wrote a great paper a few years back, and he's still coaching, but he wrote on the difference between type A and type B swimmers. You have the type A swimmers who are all in, they want to make the Olympics, they want to go to trials, they want to swim in scholarship. But then there's the type B swimmers that often get neglected in the swimming world, and those are the people who just enjoy being on the team. They enjoy the physical fitness, they enjoy learning the sport and growing with their teammates. And what we strive to do with our program is to provide those opportunities for those kids who want to be type A, but it's less than 5% on any given team. And really say it's okay with the type B kids. You are part of your school council, you're part of soccer, you're part of whatever, that's fine. You come when you can, and we're going to give you the best coaching experience that we possibly can. And more than anything, we hope our passion rubs off and grows to you. And what's been great in working with Alicia is that she has a similar vision for the community, and we're always very respectful of the community. We're not looking to come in and take over the pool in any way. We want to partner with the community and provide opportunities to the best of our abilities to do that. And Alicia has done a great job the last 8 years in communicating that clearly with us, and we've done everything we can to uphold it, and we really enjoy what you all are doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to come forward? Hi, welcome. Give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Denise Minch, and I live at 2202 Gulfview Boulevard in Dunedin. I have 2 questions. How far is the border of the administration building
Okay, you're going to talk
be?
to us, and I'll get any questions answered after everybody has spoken.
Okay. How far is the border of the administration building going to be from the tennis courts?
Yeah, we don't know that answer, but go ahead.
You don't know that? Okay. And the other question is, why do the trees on the east side of the tennis courts have to be cut down?
Okay. Was that it?
No, one more question.
Okay.
And does it have any effect on the ravine that's in the area right there by the tennis court?
Yeah, and I'll try to get some of those answers, but, okay, thank you.
All right.
Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, the ravine, I'm assuming it's got no effect to that, and the trees, I think it's just placement, right?
Yeah.
And it hasn't been surveyed, so this is just a concept. This has not been architectural out and engineered drawing, and so all of those things will be taken into consideration. Some of the things that Mash said, yeah, all of those things will be taken into consideration. Every piece of the things that Mash said, how the pricing, I mean, it's going to take 2 years to build the thing. I say that. It's always 2 years. You tell me it's a year, but it's always 2 years. So, the working environment likely will be different. I know that your lifeguards are not full-time employees. At least in the summer, you get a wave of lifeguards. And then, so, I mean, the way you're going to work your employee stuff is a completely different structure than the 9-to-5 kind of thing. A lot of those people won't be doing benefits, they'll be contract employees, I'm assuming. But you're going to figure all of that out. We don't know those things, but one of the reasons we don't know those things is because what we're trying to do right now is figure out how to pay for the majority of the 3 projects that or 4 projects we're talking about. So we're getting high-level estimates on the building of it, and then we would then look to you guys and Jennifer to figure out how to make the most efficient operations. I remember when we built the community center, okay? I mean, and that was, I think, the thing that opened everybody's eyes. Of course, you build a bigger, newer building, just like City Hall, it's going to cost more money to maintain it because it's bigger, even though it's newer. Yes, it is going to cost more money, but then there are more efficiencies in other places. We're not going to have the repairs we've been having. We're not going to have the building issues. We're going to get more revenue. We're going to have the revenue from, maybe Kids in Largo, who knows? So there's those offsets. You guys are going to do that whole study and figure it out and and kind of lay it out. Right? Am I missing anything?
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I think the biggest thing we need to do is you're going to come back and tell us after we see the golf course and you hear our comments, and you're going to bring back the undergrounding cost from Skinner Boulevard that goes along with that project, and you're going to come back and show us how we're going to pay for it all, what funds you're suggesting.
That's correct.
And which may mean that this pool is going to be phased in some way or another. And you're, after reviewing because you're not looking at it just from a financial perspective. You're looking at it from an overall, what's the well-being of each project and how it affects everybody, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you're going to come back with those recommendations.
That's April 4th, Mayor. I might ask for a longer meeting on that day because we need to recap what happened at each of these meetings and the questions that you had, just really quickly, the overview, and then move forward. So we might want to go to 1 o'clock that day.
Just one? That's an extra 30
Yeah,
minutes?
30 minutes to come up, go for bigger. We'll
I
talk,
I
we'll talk
say-
fast.
I say provide lunch and we'll stay longer.
Okay. We'll talk.
Okay, any final comments from anybody before our team goes away, and anything you feel like you're gonna wanna know about? Yes, ma'am.
Well, the only thing I want, when you do come on April 4th, I'm not sure about the lazy river because I do worry about the operational costs, but the rest of it, I'd at least like to know, like the projects we have, the financial plan to do that, kind of the level of risk that we'd be taking when we talk about our current debt versus this new debt. I'm looking at Les, so he's, getting, I just want us to be able to lay it all out and really understand. It's very desirable for me, other than maybe the lazy river, to try to
See, I
make
love
this
the
come
lazy
together.
river.
Yeah, except and again, I'm
I
not
love
saying we
it.
should leave it out. I mean, let's see how it all works. I do worry, we do have to consider not blowing things up operationally with cost too, so I do worry about that. But again, I just want to make sure we have all the information so that we can kind of look at all our risks and all sides and kind of make a good call on stuff.
Anything else from you, Commissioner Walker?
I'm just going to echo that. I think it's very important that we see the integration of the cost of the major projects. So Coach is still in the room. I just want to
No,
say.
he left.
Oh, that's too bad.
You could tell he was a swim coach.
Well,
too.
yeah.
I know.
I
Suntan.
I actually swam with Gary Hall Senior, so anyway, anyway, that neither here nor there.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
No further
Well,
comment.
you're an Olympic swimmer, right?
I qualify for trials.
You qualified for trials, but so we got an expert sitting up here.
There you go.
Awesome.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor?
Yes, so I would like to make a comment in conjunction with Mo's comment, and that is that we're going to have one day where we're going to see all of this presented to us. And I'd like to make sure that we have time to think about what just took place when we see all of this. So this may not be a final meeting, in my opinion, but perhaps we want to have another meeting after this, because then there may be some shifting around in our own minds that we want to do. So
Absolutely.
thank you for acknowledging that. Thank you. Good.
Anything else you wanted to share before we move on?
It was a great presentation. I like the concept of being multi-generational or intergenerational and something different and adding to it. Makes for a good community pool. And there was a time in history where community pools were signature places to go in communities. So it's nice to kind of step back into that arena, have something for everybody. Won't face it as a question, but just a comment. It'd be cool to have more bike racks.
I love it. All right. I am so sure that Natalie over there would be making sure we had bike racks. And maybe banana seat bikes will come back. Just saying.
Wow, here we
Mine
go.
was
Maybe,
purple,
but maybe
and it
not.
had yellow flowers on the seat. Okay. All right. Do you have everything you need, all of you? Jennifer, Vince, everybody?
We do, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for your hard work, and we'll look forward to having the next discussion in April.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have commission discussion, which we got one email, and that was from Commissioner Franny about wanting to discuss the Toronto trip. I'm assuming you're wanting to add that to an agenda, or if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I do. I just kind of wanted to put it out there. I have talked to the chamber. They did have multiple dates they were looking at. The Blue Jays for the Toronto trip were given, but I think Mother's Day weekend was one, and another one was June 9th, but there was a conflict. And so they've kind of centered around, and I think that that the Blue Jays are centering around the June 30th date. So it would be, and usually we leave on Thursday, so it would be like June 29th. The game would be the 30th, and then the first and second returning. And July 1st is actually Canada Day, so I think we've actually done that weekend before, depending on who goes. So, yeah, I thought we should put it on the agenda. I think, obviously, if we're going to go, or whoever's going to go, I intend to go. But I think it's important to get reservations like fast, because I think they're just going to fill up, and I think it was a better experience when we were able to stay at the hotel that was right at the ballpark. So I think,
agree.
the sooner that we kind of decide who's going to go and we get reservations made, and we could even, make reservations and cancel a couple if not all of us go, but I just think the sooner we jump on it, the better. So I think we probably should put it on our next.
We
whatever
have
be the
to, I
most
think we
appropriate
have to,
agenda.
because with our board rules and regulations, we actually have to vote.
So that'd be the 21st, on March 21st. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the one that's got the golf club on it?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so we need to then take a vote
So
to
be
change our
action.
agenda. So can I have a motion to add that to the agenda of the 21st?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okey-doke. Motion passes unanimously. City clerk update, anything?
Nothing, no, thank you, Mayor.
City manager update, anything?
Nothing, Mayor.
City attorney update?
Nothing, Mayor.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, okay, commission comments, Vice Mayor. Anything with your liaison position?
I really have nothing to add at this point.
Okay. Commissioner?
A busy weekend. It was a busy weekend. Yesterday, Sunday, the Fine Arts Center was kind enough to offer the center for showcasing the art projects from our Dunedin schools.
Right.
And, it really is amazing, anywhere from elementary school through the high school. And the artistic skill that some of our students have was just amazing. So thank you to all of our schools that participated. Thank you for the Fine Arts Center for hosting it. Todd did a fabulous job. So kudos to Todd still.
It's a great way to get people into the center that have never been.
Right.
It really is.
Absolutely. Also, it was Saturday was the Southeast Florida Highland Games down in Fort Lauderdale, and had all kinds of wonderful things to report. The high school, first place in grade 4.
Awesome.
And for all of the Dunedin regiment that went there, rumor out on the street is that if there was a medal to be won, we won all but 2.
Wow.
And so Piper of the day, drummers of the day, drum major, first place. Everybody went. Wonderful story. The middle school got there, participated. They came in a strong fourth place. But with the middle school on their way, the bus broke down.
Oh, no.
And they were able to make it to a rest area to wait for a new bus to come and pick them up. So while they waited, they all got dressed in their competition uniforms, their kilt and everything, and got out their pipes and drums and went through their competition pieces and put on a concert for everybody who visited the rest area.
Oh, that's so cool.
And that was neat. By the time they got there, they had missed all their solo competition opportunities and even missed opening ceremonies. And so I'm sure that played a role in how they performed for the band competition. A little shook up, and then they got home Saturday night about 10 o'clock. So the middle school had a rough day, but represented Dunedin very well. Also, the Highland Games coming up, we choose a chieftain. A chieftain is voted on every year. And a chieftain historically was, the position was to actually lead the clans into battle. It's a position of honor and dignity and strength, and just it's more ceremonial, certainly in today's era. But as a reflection of the work that's done in the community in the short time that actually they have been involved, the honor this year and our chieftain for the 23 games is Greg Urban, who is the band director at the middle school.
Oh, nice.
Who has worked incredibly hard building that program. So kudos to Greg. That is a well-honored.
Does he understand
position.
what's about to happen to him?
Oh, yes, he does. Yes, he does.
He's not reluctant, is he?
Oh, no.
Okay,
I don't,
good.
well, I don't know.
Well, you better make sure he isn't.
He might go kicking and screaming. Well, we'll have to drag him in or drag him out. I don't know.
Probably both.
But that's what I have. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Commissioner?
So I don't have anything with my liaison positions, but I did want to, although I will say, as far as Pride Week goes, Pride Week has now been put on all your calendars. The gala, I think, is June 17th. The Blue Jay game that's at the end of the week of Pride Week is also
Is
on your
there a
calendars.
pool party?
I'm sure there is, but that whole schedule is not laid out yet, and so, to be determined. I know there's some kind of a glow party over at Pisces. That's going to be part of it. So I don't know. I'm not the creative person, but I'm just giving you the info. So it'll be a fun week. So just so you've got that. I guess I'll also say yesterday we had a meeting among staff about the Duke Energy agreement as well, and so that's kind of moving along, but still a little bit more to do before it comes to the commission. So on a more personal note, but a community note, I wanted to say that on February 21st, my mother had to get emergency care, and she had our firefighter paramedics come, and of course we also had Sunstar, which they were great, but it was Chris Lindau, who was acting lieutenant, Mike Lowry, and Taj Clark. And I'm telling you, they were like a great representation. I have no doubt, just because it was my mother, it was no different than how they treat every Dunedin resident. Professional, caring, just really just amazing and a pride of our community. I wanted to do a shout out to them. Ultimately, my mother was transported to East Dunedin, and where we wanted her to be, and then she was admitted. She was there for a week. Ironically, after a couple days, and we've already broke HIPAA on Facebook, so we're not giving any medical information. But then, ironically, Jeff's mom got admitted to the hospital and ended up, she was right across the hall. And so we literally, but I have to say, and I think Jeff would agree, like the care my mother got at our local hospital at East Dunedin was amazing. The care from the technicians, from the nursing staff, from the doctors. I mean, Dunedin Hospital's a great hospital, and they got great care. And I'll just add this, that I'm on the Clinical Excellence Committee for East Fort and Plant Hospitals overall. So I see the actual numbers from a more holistic point of view about satisfaction rates and clinical care at East Dunedin, and it's excellent. it's excellent. So we're in good hands. We're in good hands. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner?
Just as a reminder, the Dunedin Youth Guild fashion show is on Saturday. And just want to echo Jeff's comments with regards to the visual art showcase. Fortunately, I wasn't able to be there because we were out of town yesterday, or on Sunday, but it is running from March 3rd to April 7th, so that's still there. And then the other Dunedin Fine Arts Center event is coming up on April 16th, and that is the 43rd annual garden party.
When is that?
April 16th.
What is that a week after Easter?
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's the week after Easter.
It's, yeah, Orthodox Easter's on the 16th, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was just looking at my staffing for Forward Pinellas tomorrow, and I'm reading what, so, regarding the, well, two things. Forward Pinellas is working with the county to put a consultant out over the next 6 months of busy time on the causeway to watch what happens now that it's busy time. So they'll have somebody, at the turnaround at the entry of Honeymoon. They'll probably have somebody by the concession stand area, bathroom area, because people turn in there a lot. We want to know what happens when if and when the park closes. Because their big concern about adding the entry lanes was that the parking was going to fill up quicker. No, instead they just parked them on the causeway. Yes, that is my snarky self. Meaning like Causeway Boulevard, not on the causeway. So they're going to be analyzing all of that so we can kind of see cause and effect and if their concerns are really concerns and that turnaround, because right now nobody's willing to pay for that, what is now like a 3-point turn, a full turnaround at the end, and we believe that needs to happen. So that's going to happen, but the other thing is and I think we've already said it, and I know I sent an email, we did retain our Dunedin seat. I'm just reading here. Based on discussion following the presentation of this item in February, meaning the appointments to Forward Pinellas staff has modified the proposed changes to retain this single Dunedin seat and the seat shared by Oldsmar, Safety Harbor, and Tarpon. This will allow for all 3 shared seats on the board to be rotated amongst 3 local governments, blah, 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 while retaining Dunedin's existing vote on the board. Staff believes this approach is a good balance. Doesn't look like they're adding a seat. I'll have to ask more about that.
Tarpon's not getting a seat.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But, they added other seats. So it was odd. You have to have an odd number. So I don't really know, but anyway, I'll keep you posted. It doesn't say here what they're planning on doing, but the fact is we've retained our seat, which is the most important thing.
I want to thank you, Mayor, for being so aggressive and on top of it, because I think, we don't even know what we would have lost. And I'll tell you, we would have lost a lot. So I just appreciate you jumped on it, you acted upon it. I know Commissioner Gow even went to the meeting.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was there.
Be there. I mean,
because he was behind me.
Those are important things. You got to jump on them or you lose your momentum. So thank you.
You do. And I'm just really appreciative, because not always when you're sitting on a board with elected officials from a bunch of other cities and county do they actually listen to what you have to say. But I think that advance letter, which if you watch it, I essentially let that do my speaking. I didn't go into a whole nother speech.
Just showed you.
Because I thought, I want to hear what everybody else has to say. Keep quiet. Don't consume, because that does make people angry, So I let the letter say it all. And I mean, we did a lot of research on that letter, making sure that the facts we put in there were real. And they were. So you should hang on to that, because that is a reason those bullet points make us strong candidates for a lot of things. a lot of things, and they're good selling points for all different things we need, whether it's from the state, the feds, the county, you know. And then we had our annual joint meeting, which hadn't happened for a couple of years, between the Tourist Development Council and Pinellas County. I did bring up the idea of being able to use bed tax money for tourist-related transit issues, and especially waterborne transportation and the ferry. Currently, the county's attorney, which is also the attorney for Tourist Development Council, don't believe we're allowed to do that. And most people on the Tourist Development Council completely disagree. I mean, completely disagree. And so from a state law perspective, not from the Tourist Development Council's bylaws, because those things would have to change. We, in Manatee County, they are using tourist development, they're using bed tax money for a ferry. So, brought that up, asked Barry Burton to research how are they able to do it, because it's a state law. I mean, are they doing something illegal? I don't think so. I doubt Manatee County's attorneys would allow them to do something legal. So we're essentially calling BS, and hey, go research that and figure out how and why are they doing it. So Barry promised that he would. Nobody else commented on it except Dave, because he's a huge supporter of this same thing. He also doesn't agree with the county attorney's office. He again, for these kinds of reasons, other people are doing it. And so when you can really see a correlation with tourism, you know, and the big thing is, and I made a big point, I'm not talking about going and fixing sewers here with this money. But when you're spending $60 million to advertise a county, and we now have, what do I quote? Almost 6 million extra cars a year on our roads, and you have nothing to support those extra people that don't live here. I mean, it makes no sense to me. It's got to come from somewhere. It seems like make the tourists pay. So, we'll see what happens with that. I think that's all I have. I'm sure there's something else, but I think that's all I have right now. Okay. What else do we have? I don't think we have anything.
Nope.
And we're early. That's pretty good.
That's great.
Well, the individual pool meetings probably helped that.
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
Because we would have had so much more. So, okay.
Well, all right.
Everything good for the record. We will adjourn. Thank you.